Asterios, you are on the air. Welcome to the Dr. Joe Show.
Thanks for having me.
Start over. You were about to tell us that you were doing everything in the G rating mode, so that's good.
I promise.
All right.
There could be kids listening, but there are these two guys. They used to be friends. They used to have a comedy show together. They had a show together for years. Two radio hosts, just like you guys. Now imagine this. Imagine the two of you sitting across the table, break up your radio show over a girl, but you're both in your 40s.
Okay.
So
that's very nice of you.
That's where this whole thing starts. It's like one 40-year-old man starts dating the other 40-year-old man's ex-girlfriend, and they break up. It's big Hollywood news that all these two comedians that were together forever and had one of the most successful shows broke up.
Asterios, how many unique listeners did they have on an ongoing basis on that podcast?
Millions.
Really?
Millions. They reached 500,000 listeners by I think the 3 or 6 month mark. This show was an incredible success. They were making a lot of money, especially they weren't on terrestrial radio like you guys. They're doing it on the internet.
Right. So they're promoting it. They're getting sponsors. They're getting all sorts of cash reimbursements, and it all came down to a girl.
And it all came down to a girl. And again, these guys are both in their 40s. One of them started dating the other one's ex. Radio show breaks up
of several years.
So how are you involved with this podcast and the breakup of this podcast?
Oh, I'm much like your producer. I just got like a front row seat to kind of the craziest story in the world. So one of the radio show hosts goes nuts and starts casting all these aspersions, accusing the other one of maintaining a list of people that he wants to sexually assault, and starts accusing the other one of stealing money, and starts accusing this. And so, I was a part of that radio show a little bit. I was a comedian, but a lot of us were like, hey, this one host, this guy named Maddox, this is like radio name. This Maddox guy starts going nuts, and a lot of us are like, hey, you got to calm down there, buddy. And it ends with him suing 10 of us for $20 million. It ends up in the New York State Supreme Court.
Oh, okay. We gotta back up a little bit here, Asterios. So let me get this right. So you've got is it Dick Maddox?
Yeah, it's these two guys, these two comedians I used to work with. One's named Dick, one's named Maddox.
Okay, so there's two different people. They break up based on a girl. Are you actually on the show, or are you just at this point a fan of the show?
I'm like a contributor. I'm on every couple of weeks, maybe once a month. I'm doing bits.
Got it.
And then
what was the basis? What was the basis of the show?
The basis of the show was just kind of like two men complaining about like the small problems of the day, kind of like Seinfeld, but a podcast.
And what type of tone was it, though? Was it dark? Was it vile? Was it obscene? Was it where was it with that?
No, see, that's the thing. All right, so the show is like, it's all right. It's maybe a little randy, it may be a little dirty, but it's nothing ridiculous.
Yeah.
But what happens is this one guy, this Maddox guy, sues his co-host. He sues me. He sues another comedian on the show. He
for
sues
what?
The people I work for making fun of him.
Wait. So let's back up a bit, okay? So there are these two guys. We got that. Good friends, I assume, or at least
once upon a time,
break up. And then this one guy starts accusing the other. Now, is that trolling?
I would say no, because he was taking this very seriously.
Okay.
He wanted to punish someone for making him look bad.
But wait, so which one of the two had broken up with the girl, and then which one started dating that ex?
Well, this was 5 years prior to when Dick met and left the wedding in the same car with Maddox's ex, who Maddox still had feelings for.
Okay, so Maddox is the one who gets jilted,
Mm-hmm.
and Dick is the one who leaves with the ex-girlfriend.
Yes.
And it's just a coincidence that his first name. Okay, go ahead.
See, that's why I said the first time.
Okay.
And Maddox doesn't want to admit that he ended the podcast over having feelings for an ex.
I see.
So instead, he makes up this list of accusations to justify his own emotional decision.
And Asterios, how did you get dragged into this? I mean,
Asterix?
It's boisterous.
Asterix. I like that. Asterix Asterios.
Okay.
Whatever you want to call me. It's Greek. It's weird. But the way I get dragged into it is just, all right, so I'm a contributor to the show. These two guys break up, and I say, I still want to work with you both because you're both arguing over a girl, and you're old enough to have kids. I don't care that you guys are arguing over a girl. And then Maddox starts starts spreading rumors all around L.A. about all of us and how we're maintaining lists of people we want to sexually abuse, how we're stealing money, how we're disloyal, and all this, just all this toxicity. And so, I go on my friend's show and I make fun of Maddox back. It's like a little, kind of a Don Imus and Howard Stern kind of thing. So we make fun of Maddox back, and he goes ballistic. And one day I walk into work, and my employer works at an advertising agency. He tells me that my employer is being sued by Maddox. My employer's lawyer is being sued by Maddox. That I'm being sued by Maddox. This online service named Patreon is being sued by Maddox. A 27-year-old kid in Alabama who does a parody character of Maddox is being sued by Maddox. And essentially the guy, sues half the world because he didn't like that he was made fun of by his ex-co-host.
But yet he made a living of really kind of making fun of people, right?
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing. So this Maddox guy, he's the world's first internet troll. He invented it. Here's some examples of his trolling. He suggested that people send boxes of tampons and No More Tear shampoo to talk show hosts that he doesn't like. Elizabeth Smart, of course, the unfortunate kidnap and assault victim. Maddox wrote a whole article about how she could have escaped if she were smarter. He writes stuff where he says, feminists should shave their armpits and quit their complaining. I'm not going to use that word. They should put on their bras and things like that. So this Maddox guy, he's like kind of a disgusting, awful internet troll. But then, and this is why we're on the radio today, the moment he gets made fun of back, he can't take it. He goes nuts, and he gets a lawyer, and he starts suing everyone in sight, trying to restrict their First Amendment rights. The same ones you guys exercise today to be on the radio and give your opinions. So it's this interesting story of what happens when the troll gets trolled. He sues for $20 million.
Technically, $380 million.
Why 300?
When all of the complaint charges add up.
Because they sued Asterios alone for $20 million. Not everybody. They sued Asterios. How does he justify suing your employer? Just to rattle you? That's
He
harassment.
claims that he used their equipment.
I recorded a Christmas album, lightly poking fun at this Maddox guy. I was like, I'm Santa Claus, your show stinks. My show's got better presents on the radio and this, that, blah, blah, blah. And so he said that my employer recorded it, and he said that it was recorded using my employer's equipment, which is false. My employer has no audio equipment. Every single time they needed to record something, I had to bring in my own tape recorder from home because they're just a little PR shop. They don't have big studio equipment and things like that. But he didn't care about that because in New York, you can sue someone just to harass them and cost them money. And if you lose the lawsuit, you don't got to pay a dime.
Is that a fact? So there's no retaliatory attorney's fees for frivolous actions and such?
No, in Los Angeles, which is where pretty much everyone in this story lives, if you sue someone in California just to restrict their First Amendment rights, you can be penalized up to 9 times what you were suing for. But New York is a very corporate-friendly state, and big companies, when someone's making trouble, they like to shut the little guy up with a lawsuit called a SLAP, or a suit against legal public participation.
Right. So you're based in New York? Is that how he got jurisdiction, or did he get the jurisdiction based on the internet consumption?
He used the internet as one of his primary jurisdictional arguments, saying, well, this guy uploaded his music in New York and it was heard around the world, therefore I can go to New York to sue the guy. And of course the judge threw that out immediately. The judge said, this is absolutely ridiculous. The judge, interestingly, threatened to throw Maddox's lawyer in jail in front of us, but we can get to that later. But yeah, this Maddox guy, he sued me, my employer, my employer's lawyer. He sued the famous online website Patreon. It's a lot like PayPal, but for millennials. And he sued their customer service people. Sue. And the sad part is, he cost me $30,000 in legal fees, and up until this point, he's totally gotten away with it. And I'd say the way to sum this up is just, when comedy no longer becomes funny, and when comedians get their feelings hurt, who knows how far they'll go. Well, anyway, so this Maddox guy, he's kind of become the laughingstock of the internet. Because he used to be this guy who would pretend to be a pirate, and he'd go out there and he'd say, oh, I'm a tough guy, I'm a pirate, I'm a manly man, I'm a lumberjack. But then, the moment that he heard my comedy album that made fun of him to the tunes of various royalty-free Christmas carols that I borrowed from a Christian website, made in just 24 hours, debuted on the Billboard charts at number 7 and stayed there for 3 weeks.
Wow.
Well, as soon as he heard us making fun of him with this little comedy album, the guy goes ballistic and he puts down the joke book and he picks up the phone book and he calls a lawyer.
And it bounced up the charts just because there was that many people aware of what was going on between the two of them?
It became an interesting dare where the internet kind of dared me. They were like, do you think you could record this album in just 24 hours? And it's like, hey, we'll give it a go. So we record the album. My girlfriend writes it, and a bunch of other people write lyrics. Someone makes art. I sing a couple of songs into my tape recorder, but really it was kind of the internet's idea to do this crazy thing. And then the next thing you know, the album debuts on the Billboard charts. It's been archived in the Library of Congress. Just this fun little 11-minute album calling this other guy dweeb. And then the moment he hears the song, he says, I'm going to sue you for defamation and slander and libel and, intentional infliction of this and that, all these things, which is ironic because this Maddox guy has gotten a 3-book deal with Simon & Schuster for making fun of, for making fun of pretty much everyone on the internet.
Yeah, there's a wonderful irony to that. So, Sarah, can we get this album somewhere still?
Oh, yeah, you can get it on iTunes and Google Play and Spotify all over.
Any way to try to bring up an iTunes from... So what's the album called?
Well, the name of it's not necessarily radio-friendly.
Okay.
Even the name of it, I feel uncomfortable.
Be careful where you go with this conversation.
And it's a fun album.
Okay.
So, Asterios, when you say the internet convinced you, they dared you, I mean, you're talking about the community that has now taken the side of against Maddox, right?
Well, look, everybody, a lot of people used to be fans of Maddox, but then they kind of find out that this guy's got a dark side. For example, a bunch of secret private messages between Maddox and fans have been shared on the internet by people who used to be fans of his. For example, someone writes to Maddox and says, "Oh, Maddox, I don't like you anymore. I used to like you." Maddox finds out where the person lives, posts a link to Child Protective Services for this ex-fan of theirs, and says, "Hey, you keep talking to me, and maybe I'll find out that quote, your child might be in an abusive environment at home." End quote. This Maddox guy, someone writes to him and says, "Oh, you used to be funny and now you're not good anymore." Maddox finds a picture of this person's kid and posts over it in a word bubble, "F you, you dumb," and then 2 other bad words about the person's family, and sends that right back. Maddox threatens to call the police on fans of his. It's just so this guy went from making fun of everyone on the internet, from Elizabeth Smart to Bill O'Reilly to everyone in between, to the moment people make fun of him back, he threatens to call the cops or permanently orphan their children.
Of course, as a psychiatrist, I can't help wondering, what is the motivation of a person who feels that they have been really betrayed by a person that they were doing a radio show with or a podcast with for years, and all of a sudden
he kind of snapped, I guess, right?
Yeah,
for lack of a better medical term.
Again, remember that's what the IM is about. The IM is not about judging people; it's about trying to understand the Dr. Joe Show, exploring who we are and why we do what we do. So I'm not going to condone what somebody does, or I don't necessarily like it. People get held responsible. Included with Mr. Maddox, it doesn't even mean you're going to win. But instead of judging it, I am fascinated how somebody would have this visceral response. But I think there are a lot of people out there who may not have gone to this length, but can understand what it feels like to see someone that you still care about get into a limo with somebody that you're meant to be doing business with.
But at that level, to then just implode everything around you because of that, though, that's not rational behavior.
And that's right. And that's part of what Outsmarting Anger is about, right?
Yeah.
So the book Outsmarting Anger is looking at these components to anger. The first thing is we are envious that somebody has more, right? Or suspicious that someone's going to take.
Right.
And I think that's may have been what's going on with this gentleman. Again, I'm not condoning it, but it's fascinating, to see this visceral response to feeling like my masculinity is being challenged. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go out and I'm going to try to literally castrate everybody around me. I can use that word on the air, right, Tim? Go ahead. Go ahead, Asterios.
Interestingly, masculinity is one of the arguments that his lawyer brings up in the New York State Supreme Court. For example, here's a quote from his lawyer, Kevin Landau. This is right from a transcript of the trial. I know your producer has this. So this album calls him a bad word. It says, he's a bit of a wiener, a bit of a jerk. And but according to this transcript here, Kevin Landau says that the album that we recorded, quote, it puts his entire manhood in question and says he tacitly encourages or becomes a voyeur for his girlfriend to be engaged in, let's say, carnal activity with other men. And let's close the quote there before I get in trouble. So his manhood was put on trial here.
Well, that brings up all sorts of things, doesn't it? Sorry, couldn't resist.
Yeah.
I won't even go into that one. So, okay, so you get sued for what, libel?
I get sued for libel, for slander. I get sued for infringing on his trademarks, kind of like in Saturday Night Live. They make fun of Donald Trump. I make fun of this Maddox guy. Next thing you know, Maddox is claiming that I've stolen his trademark and license.
Wow.
And where is the case right now? Did the judge dismiss this case yet, or is there still some pending matters?
Well, the case is we are still waiting on final closure from the case. Thankfully, Maddox may have run out of money for his frivolous and malicious lawsuits because they recently missed a critical filing deadline. And Maddox, but as of right now, I'm still out $30,000, and no matter what happens, and I'm just some poor comedian from New York.
Right. Now,
unfortunately, when Maddox sued my job, and this is the really dangerous thing about trolls, because I think that you guys don't need a doctorate to diagnose a guy with narcissistic personality disorder. So this guy gets his ego gets injured and he goes ballistic. He sues my employer 5 business days after the lawsuit ends, I get called into a room, and unfortunately, I'm let go.
Wow.
This Maddox guy, he sent my employer an email where he pretended to be a female, a women's rights activist, and he said, "Oh, this Asterios guy is no good for women," and this and that, and sent all this phony evidence. The emails are now part of the trial. And unfortunately, the company getting sued by Maddox leads to my termination. I lost a career that I had for 5 years.
And is there any way to recoup that? I mean, is the firm that fired you somehow
countersuing,
or even saying, "We're really sorry, come back and work for us. We know that it was not true"?
Well, I think the thing is that my old firm, they're a publicly traded company. I don't think that they, I imagine they kind of just would rather this whole thing move on, because the only reason they were sued was to get to me. So it's really unfortunate for them. Kind of, they're an innocent bystander in this whole thing. But this Maddox guy, you make fun of him one day on the internet, and then the next day he's pretending to be a Condé Nast reporter named Heather S., who's shopping a salacious story about some poor innocent comedian.
So where's Maddox now?
So right now, Maddox, he is still part of the Los Angeles comedy community. He performs at big theaters in L.A. like the PAC or Upright Citizens Brigade. And the interesting thing is Maddox has this kind of fake liberal persona that he uses in Hollywood, where everybody thinks, oh, he's just this nice, quiet guy. But then when the lights go out and he gets in front of the keyboard, he becomes this malicious, I would say, abusive troll.
Interesting. So he still has a following for his comedy, though?
Yes, he does. He still has a loyal following, inside the most important city for entertainment in the world, Los Angeles. And this guy's like a real wolf in sheep's clothing. It's kind of scary.
So, Asterios, were you able to monetize that album? Were you able to make some money on that album?
No. Interestingly, I lost money on the album because I've been sued for quite a bit of money. No money to be made there.
Before the lawyer fees. I mean, Thomas is sitting here wearing your Santa shirt, so
That's right.
Obviously there's some...
Yep.
And it's on Facebook Live, Asterios.
So, folks, if you want to get this Santa shirt, this is Asterios in his Santa outfit.
I believe it's spreadshirt.com/Asterios. Is that right?
That's correct. Spelled Asterios. So as you can see, it's just fun thing where I dress up as Santa and I say, oh, your download numbers are no good. Oh, your comedy show is bad. Just lighthearted fun, just little jokes and pranks.
To make fun of him.
Making just casual fun.
So would you think that Mr. Maddox is a bully? Is this what bullies do?
Well, I would say it's even worse than bullying, because imagine this. Imagine you get an email one day that says this, because this is an email that Maddox's co-plaintiff and girlfriend sent to our friend Dick's girlfriend. It's an email that says, oh, on Friday, this teacher will be receiving a call that this teacher is going to get a call to show that they're not effing around, and an email that says, oh, I'm going to send what you're doing to the whole school, and I'm going to send it to everybody's families. Like, what would happen is this troll guy and his girlfriend would create these phony online personalities, and they would use it to try to get people in trouble at work, like my friend Dick's girlfriend, who's a teacher, or me. All of a sudden, anonymous complaints being sent in by anonymous trolls. Imagine this. One day you're called into HR, and they go, hey, we got an email here that says you're accused of some pretty crazy stuff. It'd be a terrible day. Well, that's just a normal day for this Maddox guy.
I tell you, it's really interesting in this day and age of our politics as well, where there are so many things flying around and people are trying to figure out what's true and what isn't true. But clearly, sometimes people just make things up. They make things up for their own gain.
And it's a shame, because obviously there are real victims of real harassment out there who really need help.
That's right.
But what people like Maddox do is they use words like harassment. They say, "Oh, you're harassing me. Oh, you're stalking me. Oh, you're this." When it's really just fans posting on the internet, "Hey, we don't like your comedy anymore." But this Maddox guy uses the language of victims to create a sense of sympathy around him while he's secretly getting away with some pretty dastardly stuff.
Don't even want to draw the parallels, but I think people who are listening may already draw the parallels in other political figures and in our world right now.
Come on.
Sorry, couldn't
It's
resist
a
that.
shame because,
All right,
yeah.
we're not going to do that. So what do you do now? I mean, where do you go with this? Have you been able to incorporate any of this into your current comedy routines?
Well, yeah, I mean, being the guy who got sued for $20 million for recording a Christmas album that made fun of a radio host, it's a pretty interesting calling card. I think I might be one of the only people out there who's ever gotten sued for a joke. But my next stop is to try to countersue this Maddox guy for something called malicious prosecution. Have you guys ever heard of malicious prosecution?
So that's what I was getting at. So he's got money. So I wasn't sure if he was spiraling the drain and just completely going into bankruptcy mode. So, but he still has a following. He's still monetizing. There's still something for you to gain by filing a suit against him or a countersuit.
Well, interestingly, for me, it's not about money. It's about justice. We've got this Maddox guy going around L.A. We got this Maddox guy going around L.A., and he's going around, he's emailing people, and he's kind of ruining my reputation. Malicious prosecution is when you take someone to court on false charges.
Right.
A civil complaint, a lawsuit without merit, false legal action through the courts to, quote, harass, embarrass, or cost someone money. So pretty much when you sue somebody just because you're a vexatious litigant, that's malicious prosecution. I believe this guy sued me just to get me fired. I believe this guy sued me just to cost me money. So now I'm going to take him to court for maliciously prosecuting me.
Now, where are you going to take him to court? In New York or in California?
Oh, I'm going to take him to court in New York because Maddox, interestingly, by claiming that the internet grants universal jurisdiction, he also signed a piece of paper saying that he regularly conducts business in New York, a signed affidavit. Well, if he regularly conducts business in New York, then I invite him to come on down for a deposition right here in the Big Apple.
So
that would be good stuff.
So, Asterios, seriously though, about using this in a stand-up routine. I mean, is there a way to do that? What would you do? How we got a couple of minutes left, 3 minutes. So,
are you able to use this in your bit and leverage what's happening and make something of it?
Well, you know what? It's going to be pretty hard to find the pot of gold at the end of this rainbow. I've got $30,000 in legal debts. Unfortunately, I got a great lawyer, but he costs what great lawyers do. But hey, if anyone out there is listening and is looking to maybe publish the craziest story of all time, a book might be something in the future.
So, and wasn't that the theme of the original show? Was like coming up with what was the
biggest problems?
The biggest problem in the universe.
Right, exactly. So here's one of the biggest problems in the universe.
Frivolous lawsuits.
Frivolous lawsuits.
That's exactly right.
Stretch the canvas